Well, for months now, 8 News Now has been telling you stories of the coronavirus pandemic. Thanks for joining us here at 6. I'm Denise Valdez.
And I'm Brian Loftus. The big question for so many, where is COVID coming from, and are there hot spots in certain areas? The I-Team's David Charnes continues his report tonight with answers to those questions, and he's joining us live from Bonanza and Lamb over the east side of the valley. David?
Well, Brian, this is the center of Sunrise Manor. No part of the valley has seen more cases of COVID-19 than where we are right now tonight, specifically the zip code 89110. Now, take a look at this map here. The darker the color, the more cases. You can see where you live on that map. And the flashing zip code where we are is 89110 on the east side. This neighborhood is full of people who are the backbone of our economy, and there have been more infections here than anywhere else. The roots of the Las Vegas economy run deep here on the east side. In the shadow of Frenchman Mountain, the diverse working-class neighborhood of Sunrise Manor has seemingly hidden the darkness. More people have been diagnosed with COVID-19 in 89110 than anywhere else in Clark County.
These are folks who have not had the luxury of having to work remotely, and sometimes they don't even have access to paid sick leave.
Councilwoman Olivia Diaz represents this area for the city. Commission Chair Marilyn Kirkpatrick for the county.
Because they do still have to get up and go to work every single day, and they are still trying to provide for their families.
That family unit is important in these 11 square miles, where nearly 2/3 of the population is Hispanic. Thousands of adults live with both their parents and their children. 3 generations all in one home.
And you have young folks still working, and then you have older folks still staying at home watching the younger ones.
Vanessa Vasquez lives here with her 4 children and husband. She says they all got and survived COVID. She had to leave her job due to the pandemic, and just days before we talked to her here in this park, her sister died. The family has no money to bury her. She says many in the Latino community don't have papers or insurance. We're hopeless without insurance, and we have to pay out of pocket, she tells me. How can we pay out of pocket with no money and no job? Sunrise is in its name, but in the days of the pandemic, coronavirus seemed to eclipse this part of town. Health leaders soon realized testing levels in 89110 didn't match other, more affluent neighborhoods.
What we found early on is many people didn't want to go get tested because they were afraid they were going to have to take time off work, and then what did that look like?
To ease that problem, Diaz and Kirkpatrick worked to bring in more manpower, test kits, and information in Spanish about the virus.
That was no small task. It took the entire village and the entire community banding together.
The I-Team filed a public records request with the Southern Nevada Health District, eventually leading to data for possible places of exposure. We asked for specific locations, instead getting categories. The Health District describing the top category, other, as people's homes, family gatherings, and other social events.
The family gatherings piece has been, I think, the hardest. Us being a culture that likes to get together with family.
But the data isn't perfect. It can take up to 2 weeks for symptoms to appear, and some categories bleed into one another. In addition to gatherings, you could guess the other top categories: food establishments, hotels, medical facilities, work, and grocery stores. More than 11,000 have gotten sick here. Some, those who had to go to work, those who hosted their families, have died. The fight, though, is not over.
It's heart-wrenching to hear from all the people who have lost potentially both of their parents or their grandparents, a loved one, a spouse, a daughter, a son.
Now those lives are part of the record here as 89110 moves forward, as this pandemic spotlights yet another side of inequality.
So it's really highlighted what this community has been suffering through for a long time. Now we know how to get them those resources, and there's a lot of folks around the valley that now understand what that looks like.
And that work now continues with vaccine equity. But as we see cases drop across the valley, they're still rising here in 89110, with more than 130 cases reported here in just the past 7 days, once again leading the valley in new cases. We're live tonight at Bonanza and Lamb. I'm David Charnes, 8 News Now.
David, thanks for that tonight. And right now on 8newsnow.com and also inside of our app, you can see where your zip code stacks up in terms of the number of COVID cases. Plus, you can also take a look at the data that the I-Team requested for where people across the valley may have been exposed to the virus. Our app is free and it's in your app store.